Coming in. Hello and good morning. Thank you for making it. Thank you for making it. I am Simona Mainini, and I am the founder and owner of Feng Shui for Architecture. This day and age sounds like a huge name for such a small person. But my background was in architecture. I was trained as a traditional architect at the Polytechnic of Milan in Italy. And I always had a certain sensitivity for energy. And we're talking about the early 90s here, late 80s, early 90s. And when I talk to people about energy and feeling energy and something to do with energy, you know, Italy is a fairly secular country, especially Milan, at the University of Milan, so I didn't get much response back there. But I always knew that there got to be something more to just design and functionality and decor, which are the things that we normally learn in architectural school. I was sharing my thoughts about interior design and architecture. I also grew up in an interior design family, in an interior design business family. And so I was sharing my thoughts after I moved out here. I was sharing my thoughts with other architects that were from all over the world, from Vietnam and from China and from Japan. And they told me that what I was describing to them was something called Feng Shui. And I thought, okay, well, let me investigate that. Well, as you can guess, those of you that are old enough to remember, back in the 90s, there weren't a whole lot of information anywhere about Feng Shui. Definitely, you know, you couldn't just walk up into a bookstore and get a book. Internet was not around yet, so you couldn't find anything on Amazon. And so I just put my thought out there to the universe, and I'm like, you know, I would like to learn more about this, so, you know, send it to me. And so I went and attended a workshop in Alhambra in Monterey Park, that for those of you that are not familiar with it, is the Asian community here in the Los Angeles area. And it was pretty intriguing because I was the only Caucasian. Everybody was speaking Chinese, everybody was Chinese, everybody was speaking Chinese, and this girl was kind of translating for me. But one thing that I wasn't sure was, there seemed to be a long list of do's and don'ts. And I came from an academical background, so I thought, you know, if I need to explain this to my client, I need to know what the premises are, what the logical scientific premises behind that are. I cannot just go up to an American client or an Italian client and just say, you know, it has to be done this way because Feng Shui says it has to be done this way. And so I couldn't really study with that gentleman because he couldn't provide me with those information. But I continued to research. After that was just the beginning. I continued to research, and eventually I met my teacher who, you know, in the first 5 minutes after I met him, I was sitting in this introductory class. I think it was a class that he gave at a bookstore. I think it was a Barnes & Nobles in Santa Monica, or maybe it was Borders before they closed it. But anyway, he gave a presentation there, and in 5 minutes it explained the premises behind that. And I'm like, okay, this guy really knows his stuff really well. I would like to know more of what he knows. And I walked up to him and I told him that I wanted to study with him, you know, if he could teach me. And he says, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm Italian, and you came all the way here to study Feng Shui? And I said, well, more or less, kind of, you know. I was here for other reason, really, but anyway. So he said, okay, you're going to be my goddaughter, you're going to be my Italian daughter, and I'm going to teach you. And so that's how I started working with him. And I studied with him from the early 90s until he retired to China in the end of 2010. He's doing very well over there. He's not by any means retired in our sense of the world. He's very active. He does a lot of consultation for very big Chinese multinational company. So now that he's not here any longer to teach, I feel like I'm the one that now has to, continue the tradition and pass this information along. Partially because one of the reasons why I wanted to study Feng Shui with my background in architecture, I really felt that this discipline should be used for architecture, not just to fix building after they are designed. We can definitely do that, but I think that if you are an architect or a designer or you have a background in design, there is a way of putting this together that is priceless, because you can read the floor plan as if it was a building already built, and then you can see where the feng shui flaws are and you can correct them while they're still on paper, instead of waiting after it's built. Because after it's built, it becomes really hard to tell your client, that's a nice house, too bad your door is in the wrong position, take the door out, put it somewhere else, or even, oh, it's a very beautiful house, you put a lot of thoughts into it, too bad the stair is in the wrong place, now you have to move the stairs. Because if you're an architect, you know that if you have a stairs, everything is designed around the position of the stairs. So if you move the stairs, you have to change the design of the entire floors. So it's one of the most difficult things to do already when it's on paper. It's impossible to do after it's built. And so if you are a designer or an architect, you can do that from inception. Having said that, the first few years that I consulted, I started my business in 1997, so now we are in 2017, so this is going to be my 20th year in the business. I've seen a few things in these 20 years, and one of the greatest learning experience has been working with people that live in buildings that are already built, because they lived in a certain building. Most of the time when they call you as a feng shui consultant is because they have some problem with that building, and so you can learn from their life experience how the good and bad feng shui of the building has affected their life, and then you can make changes, and then you get feedback from them on how these changes have affected them. That is the most valuable lesson with feng shui. Sometimes I have students that when they first start, they want to start designing building from scratch, and it's like, well, you really don't know enough yet. You kind of need to build your library of information before you go to somebody and say, you shouldn't really put the door there, because that can cause accident and long-term hidden illnesses or something like that. Or you shouldn't put the door there because that can cause divorce. Or you shouldn't put your bedroom there because you might get, tremendous financial loss. Before you do that, you need to be able to experience that. I mean, I can tell you my experience, but it's all other things when you then go there and start doing your own reading and you start seeing the effects on your own. So today we have a couple of hours and we're going to discuss a lot of aspects, a lot of bits and pieces of different aspects. Cannot make your feng shui master in 2 hours. But I do have a longer program if you really want to be one. I have a 2-year programs for that. But we're going to touch some of the information. We're going to touch some of the different aspects of what it takes to incorporate feng shui into a house. So today we're going to focus exclusively on houses.